AITA for saying to my wife that I'm the one who gets to make decisions about my niece. My 43M niece, 14F, is being raised by my wife, 40F, and I. It's a long story, having to do with my sister getting herself pregnant from a deadbeat and proving overall unfit to be a mother. Bottom line is, I see my niece as my daughter and love her just as much as my own biological children. 11M, 8M. I know my wife also loves her the same way. However, I'm legally my niece's sole legal guardian. My niece has practiced gymnastics for the past 10 years. And when she was about 7 or 8, one of the coaches at her gym took notice of her potential and suggested she could really make it as a professional athlete. I personally believe my wife and my niece's daughter were taken by this promise of future glory. Can you imagine if she competes in the Olympics one day? Quote, my wife said, I was always very cautious because I do realize the shots are slim. I also knew that could cost us a lot of money going forward. But the coach believed so much in her that they managed to cover some of the costs of her training on the gym's dime. And when I say training, I mean training, some serious hard work. I told them I was fine with the idea as long my niece was happy doing gymnastics and it didn't majorly impact her life. And then, last month, she tore her ACL during practice. We do have insurance, so the medical costs were covered. However, she's going through a painful recovery, all the while wondering when she'll be healthy enough to get back to the gym. But I told my wife I don't want her to do this anymore. Seeing her get hurt and in pain made me realize this is a dangerous sport, and the toll it's taking on her body is simply not worth it. My wife said I couldn't make this decision without considering what my niece wants. I said I can because I'm the adult here and she's still a child. So my wife said there was still the matter of her disagreeing with my view, and that we were supposed to make this parenting decisions together. I then said that's true regarding our boys, but not when it comes to my niece. All I meant is that I'm the sole guardian in the sense of being responsible for her. What my wife got is that I was undermining her as a surrogate mother. AITA here? Edit. Some additional information. To be clear, I still haven't talked to my niece about this. I shared with my wife that, given the severity of her injury, I didn't want her training anymore. This discussion was between my wife and I. It didn't involve our girls so far. YTA. You can't expect your wife to raise this child and then not have a say in how she is raised or pull the I get to make all of the decisions card whenever it suits you. You were dismissive of both your wife and your niece. And in the end, the most important opinion is that of your niece. Does she want to recover and try to continue? Does she want to stop? She is 14. Taking away something she loves because she might get or did get hurt is not the proper way to go about this. Yep. YTA. When your wife makes dinner, do you stop her from making dinner for your niece because it is your responsibility? When she offers to take her to practice, do you stop her and tell her that you will do it since it is your sole responsibility as sole guardian? When she needs help with homework, or relationship advice, or female hygiene issues, are you prepared to tackle all of those issues on your own as sole guardian? If not, shut your freaking mouth and give your wife the respect she deserves for taking in your niece along with you. She deserves that much. YTA. YTA. First sentence. My niece is being raised by my wife and I. Overall message. I am my niece's guardian and get to make all decisions on her behalf. These two do not work together. Excluding a 14-year-old from their own life choices also doesn't work. I'm sure you mean well, but these are not your decisions to make by yourself. Don't alienate your family to keep control. YTA. Even though you are legally the guardian, you are both effectively her parents. There is no good that comes from making unilateral decisions without the other parent. Since she's a teenager, she should also have a say as to whether she wants to continue. She enjoys gymnastics and it is a healthy outlet for teenage energy. If you take that away from her without giving her a choice, you're setting yourself up for a lot of problems, possible depression, hanging with the wrong people, having too much time on her hands to do less healthy activities, etc. No sport is without risk, but the benefits generally far outweigh them. It could even potentially get her a college scholarship if she's that good. I highly encourage you to rethink your stance. When gymnastics was taken from me without my choice, I fell into a depression and got into some pretty hard drugs to numb my feelings, which were not taken into account. AITA. Your wife should have just as much a say in decisions regarding the niece as you do. That being said, time for all three of you to consult with sport professionals. Not just some coach at some gym who sees potential. Professionals who can give real insight into coming back from this type of injury. Professionals who can evaluate her potential, etc. Unilaterally just deciding she can't go back to a sport she loves? AITA. Your wife doesn't get to be mom only when it suits you. She's helping raise the kid and so she gets input in all decisions. On the gymnastics front, I coach at a gym that has 3 current Olympians. Yes, it is exceptionally hard to be one of the select few that are both in peak form and peak condition. No injuries. At the right time in the Olympic cycle. So no, she most likely won't be an Olympian. But, firstly, she loves the sport. Secondly, she may very well be good enough to get a college scholarship and compete at the national level. Thirdly, high-level gymnasts can have great careers in theater shows, Cirque du Soleil, performing on cruise ships, etc., depending on her future interests. This is a possible career path. She may even want to coach or open her own gymnastics school. Is injury possible? Of course. Gymnastics is very hard on the body. But loads of sports run the risk of injury. Skiing, running, cycling, cheerleading, football, etc. It happens. But if you take away her sport, something she enjoys and knows she has a proper shot at doing well in, she will resent you forever. You can't wrap her in cotton wool. AITA. This is all about your feelings, not your niece's, and throwing it in your wife's face that on paper she isn't a guardian when in practice she is. Every bit of a guardian as you is a super asshole thing to do. You've just done major damage to both of those relationships. You're expecting her to co-parent but not treating her like one. AITA. Massively. Info. WHT. Doesn't your wife have any legal custody of your niece? Whose decision was that? I'm not going to make a judgment, but I am a level 2 FIG gymnastics coach and a qualified sport scientist who specializes in the physical, mental health of youth athletes. So hopefully I can give you my perspective. Firstly, coaches telling parents that an athlete is special is an incredibly common and scummy practice. There are millions of gymnasts in the world. There are currently 1,700 athletes registered with the Federation of International Gymnastics, and only about 10% of them compete at the Olympics. It is insanely difficult to achieve this level, and even if an athlete has all the hard work and talent in the world, it doesn't mean they will achieve it. I would recommend focusing less on the outcomes of her performance, results and medals, etc., and focusing more on her effort and personal goals like what skills she wants to achieve, etc. What exactly does she want to achieve in gymnastics? If her only goal is to go to the Olympics, then I would suggest sitting her down to have an open conversation and set some realistic goals. Secondly, An ACL tear that requires surgery is a major injury, and she should be prepared for a long recovery and ongoing rehabilitation to avoid chronic injury. Returning too quickly and not rehabbing properly could result in the injury just getting worse or flaring up when she is older. Not returning at all to sport would actually be worse, as she would likely not rebuild the strength back up and it could heal incorrectly. A gymnastics coach is not an expert on this, and I would recommend following the guidance of her medical team or physiotherapist. As a coach, I would also be concerned about what caused the injury. Yes, gymnastics is a high-impact sport. However, an injury in someone so young would raise concerns of something like a muscle imbalance, or her strength isn't up to her current skill level. Has the coach discussed with you what her return to gym plan will be? Have they told you how they would mitigate the risk moving forward? Lastly, you are more than in your right to be concerned about your niece and her health. However, I don't think quitting gym is the right way to go about it, especially as she wants to get back to it and will likely resent this unilateral decision you have made. She also likely will not understand that you come from a place of concern and may feel as though you don't think she is good enough. She may be a child, but she is 14 and has been in the sport for almost her entire life. Instead of making the decision yourself, I would recommend talking to her about your concerns and explaining that, while she loves the sport, you are concerned about her health in the long term, and discuss how she can proceed in her sport while taking care of her health. Something like a strength plan or relaxation strategies, etc. Moving forward, I would say you really need to have an open discussion with your wife, your niece, and her coach. Discuss the injury, what happened and why, your concerns around her long-term health, and what the plan is moving forward. This should include her return to the club and gradual increasing of her training, how to reduce the risk of injury occurring in the future, and what exactly you all expect from your niece's gymnastics career. At the end of the day, yes, you could remove her from her sport, but if you respect and care for your niece, I would recommend approaching the topic of her return as a discussion and come up with a realistic plan that you all can agree on. I think this would help calm your anxieties around the dangers of her sport while allowing your niece to make an informed decision about her own sports career. My only caveat would be if her coach is more concerned with her return to competitions than her physical, mental health. Move clubs immediately. If you have any questions, my inbox is always open. YTA. Your niece is old enough to make her own decisions about how she wants to spend her time. Your wife has been by your side helping you raise you. You don't get to just unilaterally decide what your niece does, or that your wife has no input just because you're the only one who signed the papers. This should be a conversation between the three of you. Discuss the risks of injury. Discuss the time commitment. Discuss what your family wants. You are absolutely YTA. First, you are not taking your niece's wants into consideration. You say as long as she's happy and she wants to continue, but you're scared. Injuries happen to all athletes and that doesn't stop them. If she loves it, how can you take that away from her? That makes you a bad dad, since you don't actually care what your niece wants. Second, you undermine your wife, who has done just as much for your niece and considers her a daughter. That makes you a jackass, since you are fine having your wife help raise her, but she can't make any decisions in regards to her. That's BS. Be a better dad and husband. YTA. You seem to be suffering from what I call king of the hill syndrome, where you think you're the king of the castle and everyone is supposed to fall in line. YTA. If you expect to make all the decisions regarding your niece, then you shouldn't expect your wife to take on the responsibilities of caring for her either. I hope none of your wife's money goes toward your niece and you do 100% of the cooking, cleaning, chauffeuring and nurturing. Otherwise, you're asking your wife to take on the labor of caregiving but none of the authority. Hey lady, raise this child with me, but don't ever say a word in contradiction to my thoughts. YTA. You expect wife to raise your niece per your words in your first sentence, but not have any say in parenting decisions? That's not how it works. YTA marriage is a partnership. It is not a partnership when it's convenient for you. Info. You say your reasoning for now drawing this hard no line is because you've realized the sport is dangerous. Does that mean you're making sure your boys don't play football, or soccer, or baseball? You know all sports can be dangerous. Even with the helmets, right? Are you really going to prevent them from doing sports, activities they love because there is a chance they could get hurt? Regardless of that though, I'm gonna have to go with YTA because like others have said, you can't expect your wife to raise her and not get an equal say. She's either also a parent to your niece or she's not, and you need to take 100% responsibility for her. Edit, fixed a typo. You're an absolute awe. So your wife will raise that child. Pour into this child her life, youth and resources. All the nerve-wracking regarding raising her, but when it's about supporting this girl to keep working on her dreams, she's not responsible anymore and only you have a say. You do have audacity. I'll give you that. YTA, you really need to make this decision with your niece. Not for your niece. Injuries are a risk in any sport. You take this away from her and she will resent you forever. This will not be something she ever forgives you for. And she would be right. This is an super important aspect to her life and you want to take it away because of how you feel. And no other reason. My 43M niece, 14F, is being raised by my wife, 40F, and I. Then she gets an effing say. You are being a huge jerk for picking and choosing when she is allowed to parent. Grow the F up. I am being serious when I say you are about to ruin 2 relationships in your life because you can't get over yourself.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.